Hi guys, I'm Elephant. The anime recap I'm going to share today is the second season of How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. In the previous season, Kazuya encountered a rebellion when he just became king of the kingdom of Elfrieden. After Kazuya used his wisdom to quell the rebellion, it was discovered that Gaius, king of the Principality of Amadonia, not only planned the rebellion but also took the opportunity to invade Elfrieden. In retaliation against Gaius, Kazuya led an army to kill Gaius and take over Van, the capital of the Principality of Amadonia. His action attracted the attention of the Grand Chaos Empire. Empress Maria of the Grand Chaos Empire, the most powerful monarch in the world, believed that Kazuya's occupation of Van had shattered peace among nations, and sent 50,000 troops to order Kazuya to withdraw from Van. With this, the battle between Kazuya and Maria officially began. Maria's army soon arrives at Van, led by Maria's sister Jean. Jean aims to negotiate with Kazuya, and she will not easily start a war unless the negotiations break down. Gaius' son, Julius, who also participates in the negotiations, relies on the Grand Chaos Empire and arrogantly demands that Kazuya hand over control of Van. Kazuya completely ignores Julius, knowing full well that Julius's words as the defeated party don't count, and that his real negotiator is Jean. In order to persuade Jean to retreat, Kazuya presents various pieces of evidence he has recently gathered to prove that Gaius started the war first and that the occupation of Van was only a last resort. Kazuya then says that Van's people who suffered from the brutal rule of Gaius have finally lived a happy life after his reign, so it is clear that he is better suited to rule Van than Gaius. Before Jean can respond, Julius yells angrily at Kazuya. He clearly disagrees with Kazuya's claims, but cannot provide evidence to refute him. Such a performance not only stops progress in the negotiations but also makes the scene awkward. Jean makes an excuse for Julius to leave for a while and negotiates with Kazuya alone. To ease the awkwardness, Jean temporarily puts aside the topic of negotiation and chats with Kazuya. In the process, she mentions the monsters. Since the territory of the monster is mainly adjacent to the Grand Chaos Empire, its army is the main force against the monsters. When Jean was a child, she witnessed a war between the army of the Grand Chaos Empire and monsters. In her memory, the monsters were far more powerful than humans, and some of them could even destroy a city on their own. She then reveals a fact that few people know. A race called demons often fights with monsters, and they are all led by the Demon Lord. Demons' intelligence and appearance are close to humans, but they are able to drive monsters, and even taking them as food. Jean's description of demons gives Kazuya many ideas. He then points out that demons are most likely a type of demi-humans. In this world, humans and various demi-humans live in peace, so Kazuya thinks that demons can peacefully integrate into this world, just like other demi-humans. Jean was completely unable to associate evil demons with demi-humans, but under Kazuya's guidance, she gradually realizes that demons are indeed very similar to demi-humans. Though Jean is not as open-minded as Kazuya, she is more experienced than him. She immediately points out the two difficulties in integrating demons into this world. First, the people are currently unable to accept demons as Kazuya does. If the idea of demons being demi-humans goes public, demi-humans may even be ostracized by humans. Second, no one yet knows what the demons' true intentions are. Jean's arguments are incisive, and the topic of demons can only be put on hold for the time being. The small talk ends here and they resume the negotiation. In this round of negotiation, Kazuya makes concessions. He is willing to give control of Van to Julius, on the condition that Julius pays him a large sum of compensation, so that he will not be evacuating from Van without receiving anything. The reason given by Kazuya is that if the Principality of Amadonia is not punished for its invasion, other countries will also go to war without fear. Seeing Jean begin to waver, Kazuya offers an additional deal. As long as Jean agrees to his terms, he will form a secret alliance with the Grand Chaos Empire to assist them in the fight against demons, which has the best of both worlds for the Grand Chaos Empire, and Jean has no reason to refuse. Therefore, they eventually come to an agreement. Julius is furious when he hears of their agreement, but there's nothing he can do, because the Principality of Amadonia has no chance to win the Kingdom of Elfrieden with its current strength. Also, without the support of Grand Chaos Empire, Julius is not qualified to negotiate, and he can only endure his anger to sign a compensation treaty with Kazuya. After that, Kazuya keeps his promise, leading all his men out of Van. When Kazuya leaves, the people of Van look very lost, which makes Kazuya realize that his reign in Van during this time has been recognized by them. That's when the idea comes to Kazuya's mind that perhaps one day he could regain control of Van without the use of force. But this idea is difficult to realize in a short time, and all he can do now is focus on the internal affairs of the Kingdom of Elfrieden. Kanzuya's first challenge upon his return is dealing with George, the leader of the Kingdom of Elfriden's rebellion. In fact, General George is totally loyal to the Kingdom of Elfriden. He deliberately attracted many corrupt nobles to participate in the rebellion so that Kanzuya had the reason to execute them, thus allowing Elfriden to rise. Shortly after the rebellion, George voluntarily surrendered with his army, which helps Kanzuya quickly quell the rebellion and proves his loyalty. However, except for George's men who know about the fact, everyone else regards George as a traitor. George doesn't care about it, and he even decries when he knows Kanzuya wants to absolve him of his crime, because if he is not punished as the leader of the rebellion, Kanzuya would have no justifiable reason to deal with the corrupt nobles. Eventually, at George's urging, he is offered poisoned wine by Kanzuya. He decisively drinks it and falls to the ground, ending his mission as a loyal general. Kanzuya picks up the pieces and returns to the palace, summoning all his men for a meeting to deal with some follow-up of the rebellion. He first announces the execution of corrupt nobles who have participated in the rebellion, then appoints his most trusted subordinate Aisha the new army general, and offers to reward Aisha's father, who helped Kanzuya a lot in the two wars. Hearing it, Aisha's father immediately kneels on the ground, saying that the only reward he wants is Kanzuya marrying his daughter Aisha. Everyone is stunned, while Aisha is blushed. She has been secretly in love with Kanzuya, but she does not expect that her feelings would have been seen through by her father long ago. Kanzuya also has a crush on Aisha, but he must have his fiancée Lishia's permission first. To his surprise, Lishia has no objection to Aisha becoming Kanzuya's concubine. Many kings in this world have their harems, and Lishia has never intended to monopolize Kanzuya. She is ready for Kanzuya starting his harem. With Lishia's permission, Kanzuya promises to make Aisha his concubine. After announcing this happy event, Kanzuya suddenly becomes serious, as he needs to make an important verdict. He has disposed of almost all the main participants involved in the rebellion, leaving only Air Force General Castor and Castor's daughter Carla. Since they are not the main perpetrators of the rebellion and are of noble status, Kanzuya cannot execute them at will. He then summons the most prominent 14 nobles in the country to convene a trial. Kanzuya firstly points out that Castor and Carla have committed unpardonable treason and deserve death, and the nobles present actively echo Kanzuya's opinion. However, two nobles express strong opposition. They list the several wars that Castor and Carla joined to defend the kingdom of Elfriden, calling them the heroes of Elfriden. In their views, Castor and Carla can be punished, but if they are sentenced to death, the people will be disappointed in Kanzuya. Listening to different statements, Kanzuya eventually makes a decision that shocks everyone, ordering a group of masked soldiers to kill all the nobles who agree with him. When Lishia notices that the soldier leader looks almost the same as George, she almost screams out, but is stopped by Kanzuya. Lishia soon realizes that Kanzuya probably faked George's death to save George's life without being protested by doing so. She admires Kanzuya's gumption more and more. Kanzuya doesn't know what Lishia's thinking, busy explaining the killing just now. It turns out that before the trial, he found out the 12 nobles who died, though not involved in the rebellion directly, had been secretly supporting the Principality of Amadonia's invasion to the Elfriden. They were only on the side of the strong, thus a destabilizing factor in the kingdom, while the other two nobles have been remaining loyal. Kanzuya called this trial to confirm the morality of these nobles, and the result was exactly what he expected. The 12 nobles only went along with Kanzuya, not caring about the possible effect of killing Castor and Carla. After explaining everything clearly, Kanzuya appoints the remaining two nobles as important officers and then begins the verdict against Castor and Carla. Castor is announced to be sentenced to permanent imprisonment, while Carla is assigned to be his bodyguard. Finishing all this, Kanzuya is exhausted and can finally return to his room to rest. Lishia and Aisha are worried about his mental condition. After all, it is difficult for ordinary people to sleep peacefully after a killing. Together they go to Kanzuya's room and gently serve him to sleep and help him forget all his troubles. It is the most comfortable night Kanzuya has had since he transmigrated to another world. After the rest, he resumes to deal with state affairs. The first report he receives is about an inventor named Genya developing a magical device not long ago. Kanzuya is curious about how far technology could be developed in this backward world, and personally visits Genya. As soon as he arrives at Genya's lab, he is shocked by its advanced construction, followed by realizing that Genya is a genius inventor ahead of time. More surprised, the device Genya studies is so large that it can suck in all the objects and launch them at a rapid speed. Kanzuya has never seen such an amazing device even on Earth, but after experimentation, he finds that the device is dangerous to use and needs further optimization. Just then, Kazuya suddenly recalls that electricity doesn't exist here, and is curious about the power source of the device. He asks Genya about it, and it turns out that Genya has discovered a magical black ore capable of storing electricity in her research, so she uses the black ore to drive the device. Kazuya realizes that Genya's discovery is an unprecedented opportunity for the kingdom of Elfrieden, but potentially a crisis. As long as Genya continues to research black ore, it will allow Elfrieden to obtain a level of technology far beyond that of other countries. However, since the main source of black ore is inside Elfrieden, other countries may try to invade Elfrieden once the magical functions of black ore are spread. To avoid it, Kazuya instructs Genya to keep the black ore a secret, and appreciates her device, promising to offer any help she needs in research. Excited by Kazuya's appreciation, Genya proudly shows off another invention of hers, a giant mechanical dragon. As long as it is provided with energy, it can move freely as a highly lethal weapon. Kazuya admires Genya's masterpiece, looking forward to the future of the kingdom of Elfrieden with such powerful inventions. While Kazuya is leisurely appreciating the mechanical dragon, the other king, Julius, is in a tense situation. After Julius becomes the new king of the Principality of Amadonia, he continues with his father's tyranny. Van's people, having lived happily under Kazuya's rule, can no longer stand Julius' tyranny and start rebelling, which is just the beginning, followed by other cities in Amadonia protesting against Julius' rule, and Julius has to flee to the Grand Chaos Empire to seek refuge. Julius' departure leads to an even more serious crisis. Since the people do not approve of Julius's rule, the Principality of Amadonia is now a territory without a ruler. Two of the neighboring kingdoms take the opportunity to send troops to try to take over the Principality of Amadonia, while Empress Maria of the Grand Chaos Empire has no reason to stop them. Therefore, the Principality of Amadonia is facing the crisis of its demise. Kazuya soon gets informed of this series of incidents through the intelligence system of the Kingdom of Elfrieden, and he receives another piece of information, that the ministers of the Principality of Amadonia have signed a joint request to join the Kingdom of Elfrieden. After discussion, both Kazuya and his Prime Minister Hakuya agree it would stop other countries' invasion of Amadonia if it merges into Elfrieden, but two problems would appear by doing so. First, since the Principality of Amadonia faces a severe famine, food problems in the Kingdom of Elfrieden would become quite stressful. Second, Elfrieden would inherit the conflicts between Amadonia and other countries. Kazuya is perfectly receptive to these two issues, but he finds some doubts in this rebellion. How can it be considered as a coincidence that all the cities of Amadonia rebelling at almost the same time? Therefore, Kazuya suspects that someone is secretly plotting these rebellions. Despite the misgivings he has, Kazuya knows that the benefits of merging the Principality of Amadonia into the Kingdom of Elfrieden are irresistible. If he misses the chance, there will never be such an opportunity for him to expand the territory of Elfrieden so easily. Not to mention there are abundant mineral resources in the Principality of Amadonia. After a short time of hesitation, he agrees to incorporate the Principality of Amadonia into the Kingdom of Elfrieden. Soon, Kazuya and his men receive the ministers of the Principality of Amadonia at his royal palace. Among the gifts brought by the ministers, Kazuya notices several rolls of blankets that look weird. As he approaches to check, a girl who suddenly comes out of the blanket startles him. The girl identifies herself as Roroa, Gaia's daughter. Astonishingly, Roroa then claims that she is here to marry Kazuya. Looking at Kazuya and Lycia's shocked expressions, Roroa finds them funny. She teases them for a while before she officially reveals the reason why she wants to marry Kazuya. Roroa has wanted to marry a capable man since she was a child, and during Kazuya's occupation of Van, she was there. Witnessing Kazuya's excellent governing ability, she has fallen in love with him since then. Logically speaking, Roroa should have hated Kazuya, because her father, Gaius, was killed by Kazuya, but Roroa is grateful to him. Previously, when Gaius was the king, he never knew how to be considerate of the people and always imposed high taxes, which made life difficult for the people of the Principality of Amadonia. Roroa devoted herself into improving the life conditions of her people, while Gaius launched a war at will. She never considered Gaius as qualified king, hoping that Julius would be different, only to find that Julius was as mediocre as Gaius. Eventually, Roroa chose Kazuya to be the king of the Principality of Amadonia, secretly plotting rebellions throughout Amadonia to oust Julius, and then arranging for ministers to invite Kazuya to take over the Principality of Amadonia. Roroa loves Kazuya and she, the Princess of Amadonia, marrying him provides legitimacy for Kazuya to control the Principality. Kazuya finds Roroa's offer tempting, but he must first seek permission from Licia and Aisha, who will never refuse what is good for Kazuya, and they decisively accept Roroa. Then, Kazuya officially marries Roroa and takes control of the Principality of Amadonia. He merges the Kingdom of Elfrieden and the Principality of Amadonia, renaming it Fridoni. With both the territories, Fridoni becomes the only country in the world whose size is comparable to that of the Grand Chaos Empire, which means that Kazuya has become one of the most powerful lords in the world. Next, Kazuya will begin to deal with Fridoni's internal affairs. At Roroa's suggestion, he decides to promote commerce throughout the kingdom in order to improve the economy. Kazuya knows that economic development is not an easy matter, and he needs a group of people to deal with finances. Hence, Kazuya begins to recruit mathematical talents all over the kingdom, and in the process, a merchant catches Kazuya's attention. This kind merchant teaches many slaves to learn mathematics to avoid them being abused by their masters, because slaves who know mathematics are very pricey, and no one would hurt them at will. The merchant's care for slaves leads Kazuya to think about slavery. He knows that it would be difficult to abruptly abolish slavery in this world, but he could make slaves' life better just like how the merchant helps them. He decides to set up training institutes to educate the slaves, which will not only provide Fridoni with talents, but also improve the social status of the slaves so that he could abolish slavery once and for all in the future. After the plan is settled, Kazuya is brought to another vulnerable group in Fridoni, refugees. As Demon Lord's territory gradually expands, more and more refugees pour into various countries. Fridoni is home to a group of refugees who cannot become citizens of Fridoni, have no legal source of income, and are a destabilizing factor in society. To solve the refugee issue, Kazuya especially talks to the representative of the refugees and learns about their difficulties. Some refugees want to settle in safe cities but are unable to become legit citizens, while others still think of returning to their hometowns one day and are reluctant to find a way to integrate into new cities. After thinking about it, Kazuya comes up with a plan. He has recently built a new port and is short of labor. As long as refugees are willing to settle in the port, they will be treated in the same way as citizens of Fridoni. As for the refugees who are reluctant to settle, Kazuya is willing to offer them the opportunity to join the army and fight the monsters in an attempt to reclaim their homeland. Kazuya's programs allow all refugees to go somewhere they belong to, so they are no longer the destabilizing factor in society. During this period, Kazuya solves many problems for Fridoni, making it gradually become stabilized and develop rapidly. Everything Kazuya has done catches the attention of one person, Albert, the former king of the Kingdom of Elfrieden. On the last day of the year, Albert, along with his wife, makes a surprise appointment with Kazuya, who has been waiting for the chance because Albert has been reluctant to meet since he gave up the crown. Kazuya has many questions about Albert, and as soon as he sees Albert, he hurriedly asks why Albert would give him the throne so easily when they first met, and why did George trust him so much. Albert ponders for a moment and answers Kazuya's questions with a story. Once upon a time, there was a mediocre king who summoned a knowledgeable hero in a ceremony. The king appreciated the hero's knowledge and wisdom, thus appointing him as prime minister. The hero gradually showed his talents, held more and more power, and was envied by many nobles. The nobles slandered the hero in front of the king every day, causing the king to gradually lose trust in the hero. In the end, the hero was eventually driven away by the king, with only a general and a princess who trusted him by his side. Then a disaster struck. The kingdom was invaded by its enemy, but had little resistance to it due to the poor governance of the king. To make matters worse, the nobles turned to the enemy at the critical moment, resulting in the fall of the capital. Everyone in the kingdom fled, leaving only the king and the queen. The king told the queen of his remorse. If he always trusted the hero, and appointed him as king, he might have changed the tragic fate of the kingdom. Then, the queen's comfort stunned the king. The queen said she had a special magic that allowed her to convey her memories to her past self, so that the future could be changed. The queen was actually the one who had the right to inherit the kingdom, and she finally chose to marry the king after countless failures. Before that, the capital had fallen earlier, so she did not think that the king's reign was a failure. The queen believed that after she used magic this time, the king would be able to make a wise choice to avoid the fall of the capital. As the story ends, Albert confesses that the king in the story is himself, and the hero is Kazuya. When he learned from the queen what would happen in the future, he decisively passed the throne to Kazuya. Albert didn't want his presence to affect Kazuya's rule, so he has been avoiding meeting him or any other acquaintance. His only concern was that Kazuya would be persecuted by the nobles, so he told George everything and asked George to assist Kazuya. Not until recently, when Albert knew about Kazuya incorporating the Principality of Amadonia into the territory of the Kingdom of Elfrieden, while governing Fridoni well, did he stop worrying about the kingdom and decide to tell the truth. totally relaxed now. Albert plans to leave the palace with the queen and find a new place to live in seclusion so that nobody can find or use them to threaten Kazuya. Bidding farewell to them, Kazuya thinks about Albert's words alone in the balcony, still feeling shocked. Just then, Licia comes over to put on the cloak on Kazuya, reminding him to be careful of the cold. Kazuya can't help but think of Albert's story, where Licia was always by his side even though he was framed by the nobles. Kazuya takes Licia into his arms and confesses his love to her affectionately. When the New Year's fireworks explode, they kiss each other emotionally. No matter what happens, he will always be by her side, just like what she did in Albert's story. That brings the end of this anime. This anime is so unique. The male protagonist Kazuya did not gain top-level strength when he first transmigrated into another world, nor did he obtain super equipment. Every time he encountered a problem, he solved it with his own wisdom. In the negotiation with Jean, Kazuya did not suffer any losses while making the Grand Chaos Empire a secret ally of the Kingdom of Elfrieden, adding additional protection to Elfrieden. Also, he cleverly picked out the traitors among the nobles and helped George, who had been sentenced to death, to survive. I admire Kazuya because his command is truly unparalleled, and I wish to see more of the wonderful stories of him taking on other kings. If you are interested in it as well, please keep going in the comment area, and I will bring the recap of the next season as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give me thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to let more people see it. Your support motivates me to keep updating. Bye.